Welcome back to the Mental Space podcast here in the Leaders Lounge at Nexus at Expo City, Dubai. Now, today's guest has a powerful story. Imagine being diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. How would you react? How would you feel? How would you go forward from there? So I'm delighted to welcome to the Mental Space today, Mr. Steve Ashby, the founder of Rise. Steve, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much.
That's quite a powerful way to start any podcast.
It sharpens the mind, that's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Tell us your story. We were talking off camera that it's kind of August of last year, not even a year since you received some news. What was that news?
I was diagnosed with stage 4B prostate cancer, which means it had metastasized, and in my case, it's gone into my lymph nodes, which it could have been worse. It's not wonderful, but it could have been a lot worse. Quite frequently, stage 4 metastasizes into the bones or into major organs.
Okay.
So you can actually have prostate cancer in a variety of places, not just in the prostate. Per se, and not just in the groin area. So I got that diagnosis 1st of August, imprinted on my mind. I spent the first 2 days after that, I was completely numb. And then if I can be honest, I lay on the floor and I bawled my eyes out. And then I thought, I'll look around for a support group.
Yeah.
And I couldn't find one. So being a rugged Kiwi, I thought, I'll make my own. So I have, hence Rise. So I started Rise on the about the 3rd week of August.
Yeah.
And since
the 3rd week of August. So again, August the 1st, we said?
1st of August, I got diagnosis.
Okay.
I started Rise on the 3rd week of August.
Okay.
I don't mess around, mate.
No, that's cycling through the cycles of pretty quickly.
Yeah. So I tend to be a fairly positive kind of a guy.
Yeah.
And so since then, I've run several events.
What's the mission? What's the mission with Rise?
The mission?
Yeah.
The mission has really developed over the last 7 months. It's very clear now. Our mission is to save a life, save a family.
Yeah.
Because prostate cancer isn't just a male issue. It involves the family as well for obvious reasons. Certainly if a man is diagnosed with prostate cancer, the treatment frequently causes issues like erectile dysfunction and so on. And so it kind of strikes at the heart of what it is to be a man for a lot of guys.
Yeah.
And they find it extremely difficult to discuss that with their wives. And there's a lot of stigma around it as well. And there are some countries where even acknowledging below the belt, as it were, anything happening below the belt, it is almost socially unacceptable, and which is a shame, really, because what that means is that in those countries, there's not a lot of awareness around prostate cancer and how to tell whether you've got something going on or not. So,
this is still a global phenomenon, isn't it? The stigma around this is.
Oh yeah,
and there are men dying in the dark.
There are men dying in the dark. There are men who go and have chemo without telling their wives. They say they're on business trips. The amount of energy some men put into concealing this, because they don't want to talk to anybody about it, is ridiculous. So what we're doing is we are working on reducing the stigma around it, and we've also set ourselves a modest target, which is it's called the 1 million men.
The 1 million men.
Yeah, and the idea behind the 1 million men is that as a result of setting up Rise, 1 million men will have an early detection PSA test, which will help save them potentially and save their families. And so far, we're up to about 160, so we haven't got that much far to go. It's a doddle from here.
Couple of weeks.
It's a doddle.
So tell me, stage 4, metastasized into your lymph nodes. Where are you at today? I mean, what's the impact been on you in terms of how Steve feels in himself, but also, what danger are you in? Where are you at right now in terms of your health?
I have been told by a medical specialist that I am an extreme athlete. I've been told by several members of my family I'm an extreme idiot, but those two things are not connected.
It happens to me. Yeah.
But so I'm 71.
Yeah.
I've got a resting pulse rate of 46. I cycle 160K a week.
I'm 52 and you look younger than me.
Yeah, well, I was going to mention that, but modesty
you
and all
were
that.
going to mention that. Yeah.
No, okay. I just did. I don't feel anything. The medication knocks me around much more than the actual cancer itself.
Yeah.
So my aim is to live till I'm 100. And so I put a lot of effort into that.
Yeah.
I've always kept myself fit, but I've never had such a good reason to do it as I do now, which is I need to have a very healthy mind, which I've got. I need to have a tremendous amount of willpower, which I seem to have in abundance.
Yeah.
And I am turning my body into the most healthy that I can make it. So that's around diet, keto diet in particular. I'm not a saint. I'm not, I enjoy food as much as anybody else, but 95% of what I eat would be keto.
Yeah.
There's a few treats here and there. But I think more than anything, it's the positive mental attitude. And so I think that is the area where I can add tremendous value. I find with the speaking that I do with groups like British Dads and within companies that I do these talks talking about early detection and the importance of it, I'm finding also people are coming up afterwards and saying, how can you be so positive? And I say it's simply a matter of choice. At the end of the day, it is a choice. And so what I'm doing is not only living an extremely positive life, but I'm also, through my coaching business, giving people, if you like, some pointers about how they too can become more positive, which I think resonates very, very closely with what Mentl is doing.
Yeah.
Because there's so much stigma around aspects of health, whether it's mental health or physical health, particularly for men, because we're very, we're terrible at looking after ourselves.
Why do you think that is?
I've got no clue. And that to me is like trying to figure out why the world is round. So I'm going to leave that to somebody else to figure out. What my little piece is to educate men about the fact that early detection saves their life and saves their family from a great deal of trauma.
Yeah.
It is something that I am admirably equipped, unfortunately, to do. I like public speaking.
Where's that come from? I mean, is it, I know some people are wired that way, that positivity, but have the last 7 months changed you in any way, taught you in any way? You talked about that initial reaction. Sort of take me back to that August 1st, if I can, and just stay with that for a moment. How do you cycle through that and pick yourself up within 3 weeks? And I know you say it's a matter of choice, but you have to arrive at a point where you make that choice. How within 3 weeks do you go from falling flat on the ground and bawling your eyes out, which I'd have been there still after 3 weeks probably doing it, to then going, right, I'm going to set up my own support group. How did you, what were the emotions? And
the emotions were enormous, waves of emotions about all of a sudden confronting mortality, which I'd never done before, combined with a sense of kicking myself for not having had the tests that I'm now advocating. I didn't. So, with RISE, it's don't be like me. Go and get tested. You're 52. Go and have your test. I saw a guy this morning, same age as you, and his mother died of cancer earlier this year, and his father died of cancer a couple of years ago. And I asked him, "Have you had a test?" And he said, "No." And I said, "Okay, I'm going to write in my diary, you were going to call me on Friday morning and tell me that you've had the test.
Okay.
Because if you can't do it for yourself, let me help you.
Yeah.
So there was that kind of, how could I have been so stupid? That took a lot of getting over. But then it was a phone call with my brother down in New Zealand who had been in the insurance business for many, many years. And people would come to him and say, oh, John, I've been diagnosed with cancer. And John said, he would ask them one question, how long are you going to live? And people divided themselves into two camps. One side would say, I'm going to live till I'm 100. And the others would go, oh, John, my mother went through chemo and I saw what it did to her, and I don't know whether I've got the capacity to manage that, and they were dead within 3 years. So my brother John said, how long are you going to live, Steve? I said, till I'm 100. And then I went and had a look on Mrs. Google to find out, given my circumstances, what the average life expectancy
are available.
Say again?
Other search engines are available.
Yeah, I know, but she wasn't very helpful. No. She told me 2.5 years. So I thought, So I thought,
what? That's got to be a punch in the guts. No?
It was that took a bit of getting over.
Yeah.
And then this determination came through that said, I am going to do two things. I am going to eradicate this out of my system. I was told by then it's treatable, but not curable.
Yeah.
But I'll be on very heavy medication for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And so treatable, not curable. And the second thing I was determined about was to make sure that I wouldn't stand by and let this happen to other men.
Yeah.
And Aristotle, you remember him, the old bloke?
Yeah, we were good friends back in the day.
He said that where there is a need in the world and your talents cross, there lies your vocation.
Yeah.
And I realized straight after I read that quote that I've been looking for something like that all my life.
Yeah.
I've been looking for something like Rise all my life, where I can take my seemingly innate ability to enthuse and inspire people and talk a lot with a need in the world, which we've identified as being the stigma, the ignorance, and it is in some cases absolute ignorance. I talk to guys in their 60s who have no idea they've even got a prostate, much less that they need to be checking it.
Yeah.
And so it has been, in a funny sort of way, it's been a real liberating experience. Now, I wouldn't wish this on anyone, believe me.
Yeah.
But what I've set myself the goal of doing is taking this life-changing diagnosis and using it to change my life and the lives of 1 million men. And that gets me up in the morning.
How important is that? I mean, you talk about your positive mental attitude, but it almost feels like you've found an extra layer of medication in some ways.
Oh,
in terms of having this purpose and having this reason and having this mission, that almost feels like that's part of your treatment program.
It is. It's endorphins.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, look, I have low periods,
like
I was going to say,
you say it comes in waves. And
10 to 15 minutes, I feel a bit down. I'm serious. It doesn't last for days.
I was going to say, I think most of us without stage 4 prostate cancer probably go through similar, if not more.
Yeah, but for some reason or other, I bounce back. The other thing is having that sense of purpose. And the other really useful thing is that, as I think it was Henry Kissinger once said, the absence of alternatives sharpens the mind wonderfully.
Yes.
And, what is the alternative for me to doing this? It's to die.
So you're saving other men's lives, but at the same time, you're saving your own life.
It's enlightened self-interest. It really is. But, and it's it sounds bizarre, but it's fun. I am meeting amazing people.
Yeah.
We met totally by random, by random chance through people who knew people who knew people. This keeps happening. I was telling you about Sir Chris Hoy.
Indeed, yeah.
Can I tell that story?
Please do, yeah.
So November last year, I heard about Sir Chris's diagnosis.
Yeah.
He's got stage 4 prostate cancer. Unfortunately, his has leached into his bones.
Yeah.
And his prognosis is not great.
Incredible athlete, incredible human
Incredible
being.
athlete. And the only way they found out about it is, according to what he said, he had a pain in his shoulder.
Right.
And then that was how it was diagnosed. So he was on my vision board in November last year, and I was at a Christmas lunch up in the French Alps with some friends I hadn't seen for years. There was a woman there who said that she knew Sir Chris. She didn't, but she knew somebody who did know him. So I contacted that person who happened to be Sir Chris's agent. Long story short, he and his family are coming out to Dubai in mid-April.
Amazing.
And so we're looking to organise an event to celebrate this extraordinary athlete's life. And, we're very hopeful that we'll get a lot of cyclists to come along, but just, people who want to honour what he has given in the way of the pleasure of watching a world-class athlete.
Yeah.
To, allowing them to honour him and to give back, because we're both doing the same thing. Him, and he's got his program in the UK, which is about helping people to understand what people who are going through stage 4 of any kind of cancer, what they need.
Yeah.
And the last thing they need is sympathy.
Yeah, okay.
What they need is understanding, and they need support. When they say they want it, don't smother them. And he's still cycling, which I think is amazing.
And you're still cycling? You're still cycling?
And I'm still cycling. I'm doing 160K a week. I decided after the Spinnies ride last weekend, I'm going to the Worlds in Rome in 2026. And,
You put me to shame. I was supposed to do the 92 and then got a foot infection. I did all the build-ups to 85.
You don't need your feet. You only look. You can
don't
get
need your
by
feet
with
to
one
pedal.
foot. You don't need both.
Now you can call me a lily-livered.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Anyway, so... and this is what keeps happening. And it's like I'm not rushing after things. I am closing my eyes and opening my arms and attracting amazing things and amazing people who I have no idea how it happens. I can't explain it, but I just keep meeting the right people who know the right people, and extraordinary things happen, which is the way that we met.
Absolutely. And through the auspices of the British Chamber of Commerce Dubai that I believe you reached out to us. So they put us in touch. And I know you're doing an event in a couple of weeks' time. Not quite sure when this podcast's going out, but if it goes out before March 17th, is it you're doing an event? Is it? With Jay up at the Sofitel? Yeah,
we're just seeing how things go with that one. We are definitely doing 17th of April at the Sofitel with Jay.
7th of April, right, okay. So for our viewers, this podcast should be out before then if it's the 17th of April.
Yeah, and so the idea there is we're going to have an event. So Chris will be the keynote speaker, and there'll be a couple of other great speakers as well.
Is that the Chris Hoy event?
Chris Hoy event, yeah.
Okay.
So the Chris Hoy event is April the 17th from memory.
Okay, great.
And we'll be putting out a lot of publicity about that.
Perfect. Well, we'll make sure we get the podcast out before then as well. So listeners, look out for the details. On that one then, very quickly, how did they get in touch with you around that, Steve, if they're interested in the event?
We've got a whole social media campaign. We've got the flyers. We've got links to be able to get tickets.
Best way to reach you via an email on that?
Yes, it's all there. People can contact me at steve@werise.ae.
werise.ae. And is that the website?
That's the website. Okay. And from there, it's very easy to find me.
Okay. Well, just getting that information out now, just so anyone that's interested can lean in and get in touch on the event.
And by the way, we will be doing testing. We'll be doing PSA testing at the event.
Right.
And that's a really interesting point in itself. A lot of men still think it is what
invasive.
we call FUTA.
Yeah.
Which is finger up the...
Okay, let's not go any further. But yeah, I think...
But it's not. It's a simple blood test.
I think that's important to stay as well, isn't it? That is that's one of the stigmas and one of the barriers.
Yeah.
And that's what used to happen in the medical world, so there's no point shying away from it. But now, if someone does want to get tested, what is the procedure?
The procedure is they get a code from me to go to the particular company that we are associated with.
Yeah.
They will send a nurse around that evening, take the blood sample at home and give you a report within 24 hours.
It's literally that easy.
It's that easy.
So
it's just a simple blood test.
Yeah.
And so, and then you then get to be one of a million. You get to be one of the million men.
Well, so my commitment to you is after we finish rolling, I'm going to get that code off you and I'll book that, so I'll become one of your million. You say that you've got this North Star, that your mental health is in a good place, but how do you maintain that? I mean, you talked about having those 15-minute struggles. You seem to have a natural resilience, and you talk about making a choice. For some of us, it's not quite that binary.
Very true.
It's more of a, there are perhaps more stages to arrive at that decision. So how do you, even though perhaps it's an accelerated process, cycle through those different stages to arrive at that decision to make that choice?
I've always found that I get through those difficult times, and I do have them, believe me.
Yeah.
I'm joking slightly about the 20, over in 20 minutes. Sometimes they last longer than that. But the way I get through them is I talk to somebody. I find somebody whose advice I trust, and sometimes they don't really need to say anything. All I need to do is just get it off my chest and get it out into the world. And it's one of the fundamental principles of coaching, which is now what I'm doing. It is taking the idea, which is if you like, almost like a septic inside you.
Yeah.
It's corrosive, right?
Yeah.
As soon as you get the idea out into the world, if it's a bad idea or it's a bad emotion and you're expressing it, the sunlight or just the ambient light tends to kind of dry it up and get it into perspective.
Yeah.
And a good coach can then help you not only do that, but put together a strategy for how to deal with it if it comes up again, and all those other things that good coaches can do. I think suffering alone is a really bad choice.
Yeah.
It's a really bad choice.
Well, we've seen the medical research recently around how isolation, that loneliness, that suffering in silence is equivalent of smoking 12 to 14 cigarettes a day. It literally has physical harm on you.
Yeah.
So I can only imagine that if you layer that on top of an existing physical condition, you're not in a good space. So as far as you're concerned, talking, reaching out, don't suffer in silence. Just find someone that you can talk to. Doesn't need to be a coach, just needs to be someone that you can open up to is really, really important.
Yeah, absolutely. The one thing I would say is it's really important to pick somebody who will listen rather than do the old "if I were you."
Yeah, yeah.
You're not actually asking them. You're not asking them for advice until you ask them for advice. You're turning up and talking to somebody is not then an open invitation for them to give you the benefit of their wisdom. They are not you. They are not going through what you're going through.
Yeah.
The best thing a friend can do under those circumstances is just to nod. Okay. Leave it at that.
Hold space for you to talk.
Say again?
Hold space for you.
Hold space so that you can get it off your chest. The whole reason you're there talking to them is to unburden. You don't necessarily want them to tell you how sick you are, how helpless you are. If you're talking to somebody who says, oh, there, yes, I know it's really difficult, and yes, I understand why you're so upset, go and find somebody else. as far as I'm concerned, I consider myself to be an activator. If somebody comes to me and says, look, I'm feeling down or whatever, I empathize with them and I demonstrate concern for that. But then I ask a very simple question, what are you going to do about it? So in the kind of messaging that I'm doing through helping men to understand why it's incredibly important to get over the stigma, it's things like, the conversation that we've just had. You said that you're going to book. That's what really helps me. If somebody says to me, after listening to me for a little while, go on and on and on, if they say to me,
you're allowed to go on and on because this is a podcast, so that's fine.
So, there's a wonderful thing called disinhibition that happens when you get to be my age, which is you just really don't care anymore. But the best thing that anybody can do who I'm in contact with is to take ownership for themselves. What I love to hear is, by the way, I got my PSA done. I don't need to know what the answer is. I don't need to know what the outcome is. Yeah. I listened to you and I went and got the PSA test done.
Great.
And that, boy, I'll tell you what, that's $1 million right there. And so, I imagine I won't hear from 1 million men. No. I may not even be alive by the time we get to the 1 million men. But what I think that what I've set in place is like a snowball. And as we were talking earlier, getting from 0 to 1 is the hardest thing.
Yeah.
But I've got it over the edge.
Well, you've gone 0 to what, 100 and what did we say so far?
Well, we're up to about 160, 161 with you.
161, yeah, absolutely, 161.
But that snowball is now under its own momentum starting to roll down the hill and it's getting bigger and bigger. And I'll tell you what, that is the most satisfying feeling I think I've ever had in my entire life.
Steve, it's a genuine pleasure to have met you. Super inspiring what you're doing. If you had one final call to action, and I think let's just underline, if you have one call to action for our listeners, particularly the men tuning in, I imagine I know what it is, but let's articulate it all the same.
Take responsibility for your health. Take responsibility for the happiness of your family. Go and get a PSA test. We make it so easy for you with our partner, Valio. They will come and do the test for you at home, and it's under 200 dirhams. If you quote RISE20, we'll even give you a 20% discount. If there's one thing you take out of that, please go and have a PSA test.
That is definitely a mic drop moment. Steve Ashby, the founder of Rise, it's been a real pleasure having you on the podcast today.
Thank you very much.
If you have been as inspired as I have on this podcast, please remember to subscribe. The button's just there. It helps us reach more and more people and bring more amazing guests like Steve onto the podcast. So once again, Steve, thanks very much. And remember, website address again?
Is feelvalio.com to book the test.
And if they're interested in Rise?
And if we're interested in Rise, www.werise.ae.
Perfect. Thanks very much.
Thank you, mate.
Amazing conversation.
Appreciate it.